Coming up on 5 Minute News. 1,500 Americans may still await evacuation from Afghanistan. 2 US lawmakers' Kabul trip prompts Biden administration fury. And experts on WHO team say search for COVID origins has stalled. It's Thursday, August 26. I'm Anthony Davis. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Wednesday that as many as 1,500 Americans may be awaiting evacuation from Afghanistan, a figure that suggests that part of the US-led airlift from the Taliban-controlled country could be completed before President Joe Biden's Tuesday deadline. Blinken said the State Department estimates there were about 6,000 Americans who wanted to leave Afghanistan when the airlift began on August 14, and that about 4,500 of them have been evacuated so far. He said about 500 have been contacted with instructions on when and how to get to the chaotic Kabul airport to catch evacuation flights. In addition, 1,000 or perhaps fewer are being contacted regularly to determine whether they still want to leave. Blinken said some of these may already have left the country, some may want to remain, and some may not actually be American citizens. US officials pledged on Wednesday that the military airlift of Americans and others from Kabul will continue until the final hours before President Joe Biden's Tuesday night deadline. But refugee groups described a disorganized, barely there US evacuation effort for Afghan allies that leaves the most desperate to risk beatings and death at Taliban checkpoints. Some Afghans are reported being turned away from the Kabul airport by American forces controlling the gates, despite having approval for flights. Just days are left before the US military is to start shutting down its anchoring role in a massive operation that the White House says has evacuated 82,300 Afghans, Americans, and other foreigners on a mix of US, international, and private flights. The withdrawal comes under a 2020 deal negotiated by President Donald Trump with the Taliban, which included a 3-month ceasefire and the release of 5,000 prisoners. 2 members of Congress flew unannounced into Kabul airport in the middle of the chaotic evacuation, stunning State Department and US military personnel who had to divert resources to provide security and information to the lawmakers, US officials said. Representative Seth Moulton and Representative Peter Meyer flew in and out on charter aircraft and were on the ground at the Kabul airport for several hours on Tuesday. That led officials to complain that they could be taking seats that would have otherwise gone to other Americans or Afghans fleeing the country. But the congressman said in a joint statement that they made sure to leave on a flight with empty seats. 3 officials familiar with the flight said that State Department, Defense Department, and White House officials were furious about the incident because it was done without coordination with diplomats or military commanders directing the evacuation. The US military found out about the visit as the legislator's aircraft was inbound to Kabul, according to the officials. One senior US official said the administration saw the lawmakers' visit as manifestly unhelpful, and several other officials said the visit was viewed as a distraction for troops and commanders at the airport who are waging a race against time to evacuate thousands of Americans, at-risk Afghans and others as quickly as possible. US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi issued a statement on Tuesday evening, taking note of the desire of some legislators to visit Afghanistan and saying she was writing to reiterate that the Departments of Defense and State have requested that members do not travel to Afghanistan and the region during this time of danger. The international scientists dispatched to China by the World Health Organization to find out where the coronavirus came from said on Wednesday the search has stalled and warned that the window of opportunity for solving the mystery is closing fast. Meanwhile, a US intelligence review ordered up by President Joe Biden proved inconclusive about the virus's origin, including whether it jumped from an animal to a human or escaped from a Chinese lab. In a commentary published in the journal Nature, the WHO-recruited experts said the Origins investigation is at a crucial juncture, requiring urgent collaboration, but has instead come to a standstill. They noted, among other things, that Chinese officials are still reluctant to share some raw data, citing concerns over patient confidentiality. Earlier this year, WHO sent a team of experts to Wuhan, where the first human COVID-19 cases were detected in December 2019, to probe what might have triggered the pandemic, now blamed for nearly 4.5 million deaths worldwide. With more than 100,000 people a day succumbing despite more than 5 billion doses of vaccine administered. In their analysis published in March, the WHO team concluded the virus probably jumped to humans from animals, and they described the possibility of a laboratory leak as extremely unlikely. China said on Wednesday that officials should concentrate on other possible avenues that may help trace the origin of COVID-19 and suggested studies should be pursued in other countries. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.